and to see the historic site. All of my grandparents lived for some time in Boston. 3 of them came from Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island as young people to find the opportunities here that they did not have in the mining communities and the farm towns that they were from. One of my grandfathers was one of Boston's first cab drivers, and cars were not a familiar sight on these streets. Cab driving led to chauffeuring, which led to a permanent job as a handyman at the summer job of one of his clients in Pepperell. He and my grandmother raised their family and lived the rest of their lives there. My father went from there to Mass Aggie at UMass, Amherst was then called. He served in World War II, and shortly thereafter he met my mother. Mom had grown up also in several Boston communities. Her parents worked for Western Electric, and she completed nursing school. They had the unlikely good fortune to meet at Taunton State Hospital. My dad worked in the lab there, and my mom worked as a nurse. They probably would not have met had their last names not been the same, MacLeod. I tell you this family history because it says a lot about me. My parents have been married for 62 years. I'm one of 4 girls in a family that's defined by its love for each other. 2 of my sisters are teachers, and 1 is a journalist. We've each married terrific husbands, and my parents have 7 wonderful grandchildren. I grew up first in Stoughton, where we lived where my father worked at the Walter Baker Chocolate Factory in Dorchester. When I was 8, his company was purchased by General Foods, and we moved to Dover, Delaware. Our family never really took root in Delaware, and when it was time for me to go to college, I chose Massachusetts. In college, I concentrated my studies on American history and literature. For my senior thesis, I did original historical research in Franklin County, where I now live. It wasn't until after college and while working in Amherst that I became interested in the law. I took a night course at UMass entitled Law for Non-Lawyers, and from there my interest in the law spun to the possibility of further legal education. I felt that law school could be possibly an avenue to find work that would be meaningful, work that would be important to me, work that was more than just a job. And in fact, my legal education did just that. I had wanted to find work where I could help people, and as a lawyer, I felt that I did. My mother always teased me that I stood up for the underdog. In much of my practice, be it civil or criminal, prosecution or defense, I feel that is what I have done. Over and over during the 24 years of my practice, I have valued the opportunity to assist someone in need, to assist a crime victim, and promote a society made better by its laws. I'd like to take a moment to highlight some of my experiences as a lawyer that bring me to today's hearing. 12 years in private practice, both civil and criminal. 1 year as a judicial law clerk. 12 years as an assistant district attorney in Western Mass, prosecuting all manner of crimes, coordinating the efforts to enforce the domestic violence laws, and supervising the Franklin County office of the Northwestern District Attorney. Over time, I have come to see that the judge has often the most meaningful role in the judicial process. The judge, in applying the rule of law to the facts and understanding the conscience of the greater community, is often the one left to make the important decisions to promote justice and fairness. I am here today because I feel that with my experience, I have in some ways trained to be a judge. I did not realize that as I lived and worked the sections of my resume, but a humble regard of my history suggests now that my qualifications have led me to this new level of work that is meaningful. 4 years ago, I ran the Boston Marathon as a charity runner. It was my first and most likely my last time running a marathon. It was one of those hot Patriots days in the high 80s, and I was pretty spent by the time I reached mile 16 at the beginning of Heartbreak Hill. There was a lot of cheering and advice shouted at me, but one thing I heard over the din of all else, and that is when someone shouted, "Come on, this is what you've trained for." And with that, I dug deeper and made it up the hill. Today, I think of that comment in the context of the professional field in which I have trained. I see the potential of a judicial appointment as a continuation of the work that I have done in service to my community. I am honored that the Judicial Nominating Commission and the Governor have found me qualified for this position, and I am further honored to be considered by this Council to continue my service to the public in that role. I assure you that if my nomination is approved, I will be a diligent, hard-working, and fair-minded judge who will make this Council and the Governor proud of their decision to leave for their cause. Thank you, and I welcome your comments.
Let me introduce Councilor Michael Callahan.
Good morning.
Turn to the bottom. Back on Councilor Manning. Questions?
Sure. Good morning. Good morning. I do have a couple questions for you. Now, on your resume, you say that you handle civil matters as well. What civil matters do you handle?
In the past 5 years, when I've been in private practice in my own practice, I have handled restraining orders, which I've represented social defendants in restraining order hearings. And I've also represented some people in probate court and people in juvenile court in the child and family law area of law.
Okay, so in the probate court, what was the nature of those cases?
One of those was a restraining order. I'm sorry, that was a restraining order where I represented the plaintiff in a probate matter, and I also represented someone in a visitation. And that was part of a grant program in Franklin.
And the visitation issue, is that related to a restraining order case too?
No, there's no restraining order.
Okay. And then what about juvenile court? What was the nature of
In juvenile court, I represented children charged, basically status offenders who were charged with in need of services. And I represented parents and children who were part of the Department of Social Services, now the Department of Children and Families, regarding custody issues of children.
Okay, so just so that I'm clear, you did one matter in probate court that was not related to restraining orders, and you did some work in the juvenile court system regarding Chim's cases, right?
Yes.
Okay, so other than Chim's and restraining order cases and the one visitation case, have you done any personal injury work?
In addition, I did care and protection proceedings in juvenile court.
Okay, on whose behalf?
On behalf of mothers, parents, and children.
Both sides?
Yes.
Okay, so you represent, and those involve abuse and neglect?
Yes.
Okay. Have you done any personal injury work?
I've not done any personal injury work.
Any real estate work?
I've done, my first 7 years of practice was in New York City, where I did mostly civil and some criminal practice. I'm a little dated now, but I had a handful of all manner of general practice cases in triple court. Some of that was business litigation, some of that was housing court, and a fair amount of just general practice.
Okay. Did you do any civil trials, any contract cases, any real estate litigation, any personal injury litigation?
No personal injury litigation. I did some real estate litigation at that time. As I say, that's dated now. I moved back to Massachusetts in 1992.
Okay, but no contract litigation, no
No.
employment litigation, no?
No.
Okay. Have you ever proceeded a civil trial at all?
Excuse me.
Have you ever proceeded a civil trial?